Is it muted? What the heck's going on? What the heck's going on here? I don't think it's muted. Oh, no, I am getting feedback. Yeah, I'm getting feedback that it's muted right now. What the hell? All right, I'm trying this again. Is it muted? There we go. It's only now that I'm able to even hear myself on the stream. Jeez, guys. I'm sorry about that. You know what it is? You know what it is? I forgot to freaking... Because when you share the window rather than the tab, it doesn't automatically share system audio. That's what it is. All right. Let's just pretend like that didn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. Just pretend like that first 30 seconds never happened. Let's try that again. All right. First of all, make sure that's pulled up. There we go. Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Phantom specifically, can you hear me better now? Is my audio not as blown out? You see, the problem, unfortunately, because I'm sure you guys are just fucking dying to know what the issues are on the stream end of things. I'm sure that's just fascinating for you guys. OBS is the program that I use to record my Zomboid streams, including the one that I streamed yesterday. And for whatever reason, my mic on OBS needs to have way higher gain than it needs to over here. So, in a typical neglectful fashion, I did not readjust the gain on my mic prior to getting into the show. But we're not going to allow that to drag things down. We're going to jump into our first segment. Now, I wasn't able to find an equivalent for Trump without Trump. I'm just going to be honest with you right now. Didn't happen. However, it's better That's good. I'm glad to hear. However, I was able to locate a pretty funny Trump segment to front load at the very beginning of the show. So let's take a look at that.
And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrew. Let me just hug that little sucker.
Give me that bomber, Andrew. I need to hug that thing, that hard die-cast piece of metal right there. If there's anything that I love to hold when I go to bed at night, it's a B-2 bomber. What the fuck? Okay, let's see.
That bomber over there. Thank you. You know immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big. It's the only plane capable of carrying a 200,000-pound bomb.
Just for reference, by the way, no, that's not true at all. I'm pretty sure, yeah, like the B-2 has a maximum ordnance payload of like 40,000 pounds rather than 200,000. I'm pretty sure the biggest fucking bomb that America has is like 30,000. It's like the Moab or the Bunker Buster or whatever the hell, right? So like, no. No. It's actually not capable of dropping a 200,000 pound bomb whatsoever. So you know what? Was it shitty that my stream didn't take off the very best? I know, Achilles. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it did happen. My stream did have a bit of a fail to launch at the very beginning, but at least I'm not the president of the United States saying that the bomber I just asked to hold is capable of carrying a bomb that doesn't even exist.
I don't know how they do it. It's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons and there's a lot of bombs. But had I not sent this incredible machine times numerous others to hit Iran at midnight.
Did you say times numerous other? Hold on. Wait a second.
To incredible machine times numerous others.
Times numerous others. He did. He literally says times numerous others. What? Are you multiplying the amount of other planes you have times the B? What? Is that Trump math? Is that we got Trump steaks, now we got Trump math. We're multiplying based on the B-2 bomber. What's the numerative value of the B-2 bomber? Who the fuck knows, folks? I just said it could drop a 200,000 pound bomb because I have dementia.
To hit Iran at midnight with no moon, dead dark. Every single bomb was dropped.
No moon, dude. They literally have like IR and fucking heat sensitive cameras. What the hell do you mean no moon? Is this fucking like, is this Attila the Hun bragging about his latest raid on the Gallic? We raided them. There wasn't even a moon. The gallant forces of my cavalry galloped into the city. There wasn't even a single bit of moonlight to guide us, folks. And yet, a herb. Sorry, it's not a herb. Who would it be? A Tengri guided us anyway. May Tengri guide our path forward on the inevitable conquest of the Western Roman Empire. Okay, even if we try to make it make sense, it won't work. That's true. That's true, Robin. I'm really not taking the proper approach to this. I've got to reevaluate. Because trying to frame this in any way that would actually be like logically consistent. Yeah, you're right. That's a mistake. Trump core? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We had hardcore, but now we've got Trump core, folks. It's a whole other level. A whole other level.
Right down the chute that it was supposed to hit. How they do it, who knows? Nobody else can figure. No other country can do it. No other country has our military or even close. And I think we've probably proven that.
Never mind the fact that it's not even it wasn't even the B-2, was it? It could have been the B-2, but I'm pretty sure it was an even more advanced version of the American stealth bomber. They shot down. It's like the F-117 or something like that. They like shot that shit down over Serbia in the fucking 90s, dude. And you're out here saying, no other country, they can't figure it out. They can't fucking figure it out. It was a ramshackle little fucking surface-to-air missile pod down the fucking F-117. And America literally threw a shit fit about it. They were like, oh my God. It wasn't even Trump that was in charge at that point, but they were like, we need to get that back. And if we don't get that back, then it's going to fall into the hands of the enemy. It's like, well, yeah, if you thought that you were able to fight a war with impunity, fucking newsflash, no country in human history is capable of doing that. But Trump is no exception. It's almost like America just has never learned its lesson from any of those conflicts whatsoever.
With Venezuela and now with because we have done a number in Iran. But if I didn't do that, if I didn't decimate, I call it their nuclear dust, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after that bombing took place, and they would have used it on first Israel and then the Middle East. And you know that because all of those missiles that were launched against their neighbors were set long ago, long before they knew they would be using them.
Look, Mr. Logo, you claim that we stole stealth technology from your country, Mr. Logo. Look, I know espionage. I know military and corporate espionage, Mr. Logo, and nobody does military espionage quite like us. Nobody steals another country's secrets quite like we do. And I will just slap our name on top of it and claim that we came up with the idea. That's the American way, Mr. Logo. You know, there used to be a day and age, Mr. Logo, where we could come up with our own ideas. We had our own innovations, but nowadays we just have to imitate from other countries. It's very sad. Very sad indeed. That's why, in a very unfascistic move, I've decided to purchase 10% of Intel so that we can directly cooperate with major American corporations in a... wait. Oh, that's actually really in keeping with fascist policies. Oh, shit.
Anyways, let's finish this off.
This quickly. Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III. And more important, this is a war that there would have been nothing left. And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that.
It would have devolved into a nuclear war. I'm sure that your constant fucking escalations in the region are definitely not going to escalate towards the nuclear war, Donnie. Not at all. Not at all. Anyways, let's move on to our silly segment. We've gotten our first segment here. We've got Husk IRL once again, beginning to be a little bit of a returning personality on this channel. I just find his AI shorts to be funny, quite frankly. They just give me the giggles when I come across them. So I want to share that with you fine folk.
To the business, and I'm excited. I came up with the logo and the name. Do you want to see it?
Absolutely. I'd love to see it. Go ahead and share it.
Okay. So it's like a tropical themed pen store. So I was thinking something like Pen Island. It's like a store for pens.
Pen Island is a creative and memorable name, especially with that tropical theme.
Right. So you like this logo?
I do. It's simple and catchy and easy to remember. It definitely has a fun vibe that could attract customers.
Okay, so if you were walking down the street and you saw this sign outside of a building, you would go in the building.
I mean, I'm sure there are a few demographics out there that if they saw that sign, they would be heading right in. They would be heading right into that building. That's funny.
Building.
I think it would definitely catch my eye and make me curious to see what it's all about.
It's about pens.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
you go in or not?
It's all about pens. Pen Island.
For sure, if I saw a store with a name like that, I'd definitely want to step inside and see what they offer.
I just started a business.
What do you mean, Robin? Yeah, it's Penn Island. It's got a tropical theme. It's got a tropical theme. There's a real stereotype around Canadians about being apologetic. Oh, sorry, bud. Oh, sorry, bud. And I guess that we kind of earn that stereotype on a certain level when it's enshrined in our laws, the way that it is here. Let's take a look.
Ontario actually has an apology act. It's a law that defines the apology because we always say sorry in Canada. So they wanted to clarify that sorry is not a legal admission of guilt. We get into a car accident, I say, oh, sorry, man. It doesn't mean that I'm guilty. It's actually in law.
That's so Canadian.
Ontario.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that in this country it's not, or at least in Ontario. I'd have to look up and see whether or not that's like a multi-provincial thing. Well, the fact that at least in Ontario, it's not a legal admission of guilt to be like, oh, I'm sorry, man. Sorry about that. That's not the most the most Canadian law of all time. I don't know what the hell is, quite frankly. I don't get it. Who doesn't want a tropical themed pen? Ken could match his shirt. Right. I think Ken would really benefit from a trip to Penn Island, Phantom. I think that would really benefit Ken. I think that would suit him quite well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would really appreciate it. We're almost 20 minutes in. That's like borderline restrained for this channel. If you could drop a like on this stream, if you haven't liked already, that'd be greatly appreciated because it'll help keep the channel growing. It'll help allow more people like you and I come here and enjoy this fine content. You see, this right here is a prime example of what you've got to do when you encounter haters in this community. When you got people in this community that are trying to come up in your shit, trying to come up in your comment section, they're like, oh, you suck. You know what you got to do? This is what you got to do. You just got to focus on the prize. Boom! Let's go, baby! That's right! I'm going to fucking Space Mountain! First fucking ride! Everybody's like, I'm going to do Space Mountain at the fucking very end of the day. I'm only doing Space Mountain at the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, and the end of the day, because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, is there another ride at Disneyland that's on the same level of Space Mountain? I don't fucking think so. Alright, there's a couple cool ones. There's like the Star Wars ride where it's like you got a different experience every single time you go. That's kind of cool. But you think that I was wasting half my day over there just to see fucking R2-D2 beep and boop a couple different times compared to the other one? No! I was on the log ride. I was on Space Mountain. I was fucking going on all that high octane shit. And that is the way that you have to act when you got people that are trying to get in the way of your shit. You gotta go, woo! You gotta get around them, and you just gotta keep on pushing, baby. You gotta keep on going. It's the only way to go. Everybody will go watch Jamie's interview after the stream. Jamie did an interview. Was Jamie on like 60 Minutes at some point? I wasn't aware that Jamie suddenly became that high profile. Yes, my name is Stephen Colbert. Today I'm going to be interviewing Jamie Russell, CME, in order to get his opinions about the finer points of American politics. Mr. CME, what have you to say, sir? No, neat. Go check that out, everybody. Feel free to go and do so. But anyways, moving on to our next piece here. This is troubling news, ladies and gentlemen. This really is. All right. Trump threatens airstrikes on U.S. gas station. Lower your prices now or face the might of the American military, says Commander-in-Chief. He looks serious right there, too. I wouldn't fuck with him right there, to be completely honest with you. He looks serious. Washington, in a promise to address the pain Americans were feeling at the pump as this war with Iran approached its 4th week, President Donald Trump threatened Friday to launch airstrikes against U.S. gas stations if they did not lower their prices.
These terrible places must stop overcharging Americans every time they put fuel in their car, or I will have no choice but to unleash a massive bombing campaign against them,
Trump said during a White House press briefing, stating that he had already asked the U.S. Navy to send aircraft carriers to regions where American gas stations operate. Oh, fuck. Shit, guys. It's escalating. It's getting out of control, guys. You know, I thought that the war was coming to Iran, but you might just see, you know, like militarized police out on the American streets where they've got like military vehicles instead of oh wait, you already do see that. That's actually already a thing that you do see. Well, you know what? Instead, you might see a bunch of federal agents go into American cities, like killing American people instead of like doing their actual job. Oh wait, oh shit, they do that too. Fuck. Oh fuck, they would do that. Man, The Onion, you know what? I understand now why The Onion has their job cut out for them, because you try to come up with like the parody in real time, and it's actually a little bit difficult. You know, you really do kind of have your job cut out for you. Anyways, which American gas stations operate, quote,
someone told me that the price of unleaded gasoline in our country has risen 32% in the past month. Can you believe that? So I've instructed our intelligence community to provide me with a list of targets among the Quick Trips, 7-Elevens, and Come and Goes immediately. They will face total destruction.
The president went on to criticize gas stations for raising prices at a time when the nation was engaged in a major military operation overseas, saying that there would be no war profiteering on his watch. Ladies and gentlemen, this man right here, if there's one thing that I know, he's against war profiteering. Yes, but wait till Aiden ends. Yes, I would appreciate it. That would be appreciated if everybody does not run off in droves. No, it's all good. People are going to do what they're going to do. I understand it. If you do want to go over and check out Jamie's video, feel free to do that whenever the hell you want. It's a free, well, allegedly free country that you guys live in, right? Anyways, let's move on to our next segment. This is actually like a little bit of a bop. I'm not even going to lie.
Okay, gang, let's turn this speakeasy out, shall we? Here we go! Make some noise if you're sipping that illegal alcohol this evening. Here we go, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody go crazy!
Gee golly willikers, son, where'd you find this?
Woo!
Okay, gang, let's turn this...
Oh, it doesn't have any right to be as good as it is, but it just is, you know? It just is anyway, and I appreciate that very much. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I always try to make the silly segment last around half an hour. I think I might have cut things a little short. I'm at the 25-minute mark right now, and I have ran out of silly content. But thank you very much to everybody who did come around to watch the silly segment. You are very greatly appreciated. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the weather is looking a lot nicer in my neighborhood today. It's looking like most of the snow is melted away. Hold on, let me check the temperature really quick. Yeah, we're looking at 3 degrees right now. We're above freezing, which means that our snow is starting to melt away at this point. If I've got enough snow gone by the end of this stream, I think I might do a part 2 of my going around the neighborhood and collecting stuff, because I thought that was a really good stream. Got a lot of stuff done, and hopefully I'll be able to take care of some more today. Anyways, without further ado, let's start going into our non-silly segments, beginning with Democrats walk out in protest over outrageous fake Epstein briefing from Pam Bondi. Lawmakers leave closed doors meeting after AG refuses to commit to honoring subpoena to testify under oath. So, if you recall, I covered this on my previous show. Seems like the Attorney General has decided that she's not going to testify under oath. For some reason, she's decided that that's not in her best interests. I wonder why. Democrats in the House Oversight Committee walked out of a closed-door briefing from Attorney General Pam Bondi about the Jeffrey Epstein files on Wednesday, leaving what California Congressman Robert Garcia called an outrageous fake hearing after Bondi refused to commit to honoring a subpoena to testify under oath. The committee voted to subpoena Bondi earlier this month, with 5 Republicans joining Democrats to demand that the Attorney General answer questions about the Justice Department's failure to properly release files from the federal investigations into Epstein. Bondi and Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, went to Capitol Hill on Wednesday to try to quell bipartisan frustration over the Justice Department's handling of millions of files related to Epstein's sex trafficking investigation. But less than an hour into the briefing, Democrats walked out in protest of the arrangement. Speaking outside of the hearing room, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, the Florida congressman, said, quote, "We asked her multiple times, 'Are you going to come to speak with us under oath?' She would not say yes. Filibuster, 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 would not say yes. Our Republican colleagues say, quote, 'Is this not enough? Why don't you want to speak to her now?' We want her under oath because we do not trust her. Why don't we trust her? Because she's a liar," Frost added. I mean, given the fact that given recent evidence that's come out related to the Epstein files, has all but provably lied under oath at this point, like, beyond any reasonable doubt, has lied under oath. Is it really all that unreasonable to call Pam Bondi a fucking liar? I don't think so. I really don't see what the outrageous nature of a claim like that would really be. Anyways, because she's a liar. Look at how that Judiciary Committee went. She was spying on members of Congress when they were in the DOJ looking at documents unredacted. Look at what she's done as far as not putting documents related to Donald Trump on the website. But she's claimed before that she didn't do that in order to try and safeguard Trump's reputation. I mean, like, she made the claim, guys. Therefore, I don't see how she could possibly be guilty. Like, what's the big deal here, guys? Summer Lee, a Pennsylvania congresswoman, said that when she asked how the committee would respond if Bondi refused to testify, that the Republican chair of the committee, James Comer, insulted her by accusing her of bitching, quote unquote. Comer later confirmed the interaction in a social media post. Quote, "I said Democrats were bitching and wasting everyone's time because Democrats were bitching and wasting everyone's time." Justice Department leaders had hoped that the release of documents tied to the disgraced financier would put an end to a political saga that has dogged the president's second term. But the agency remains consumed by questions and criticism over Epstein's case and its management of the files. Bondi has defended the department's handling of the files and has accused Democrats of using the furor, or I imagine that might be either fury or fervor. I really don't know. Maybe furor is a word. I don't know. I'm really tempted to look that up really quick. Is furor a word? Sounds vaguely. Sounds vaguely word-like. God damn it, The Guardian. No, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. You know what the easiest way of finding it actually is going to be? Let's look up furor, since that's going to be the only instance of that word being used. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. Over the documented distract from the U.S. president's political successes, even though some of the most vocal criticism has come from members of Trump's own party. The department has also sought to assure lawmakers and the public that there has been no effort to shield Trump, who says that he cut ties with Epstein years ago after an earlier friendship, or any high-profile figures close to Epstein from potential embarrassment. The Democrats were disclosed under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Documents were disclosed under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I'm sure there are plenty of Democrats in the Epstein Files. The law enacted after months of public and political pressure that requires the government to open the files on the late financier and his confidant and girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. I hope that people never correct. You know what? It's actually more fun when people do correct me. I take that back. Keep correcting me on Ghislaine Maxwell's actual pronunciation, because I enjoy pointing out that it's just a defamation of her character or lack thereof. Criminal investigations into the financier have long animated online sleuths, conspiracy theorists, and others who have suspected government cover-ups and clamored for a full accounting. Seems like we have reached the end of the article. So yeah, as a follow-up to the article that I covered on the previous stream, she did not decide that she would in fact attend the hearing. So it's really up to us to kind of maybe do a little bit of deduction, logically speaking, as to why that might be the case. Oh, Dean's up here in the chat. He says, it's all fake news. It's all fake news. It's all fake. Every single bit of it, Dean. You don't understand. The magnitude of how fake it is beyond your limited Democrat understanding. Anyways, let's move on to our next one here. So this is a bit of a follow-up to the follow-up. Blanche defends closed-door meeting with lawmakers, rips Democrats walkout as stunt. So Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche criticized Democratic lawmakers' decision to walk out of a closed-door briefing with him and Attorney General Pam Bondi on Wednesday. The two Trump officials briefed the House Oversight Committee on the Justice Department's investigation into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. After clashing with committee chair James Comer over logistics of the forum, Democrats exited around 30 minutes into the meeting. Blanche called the move a stunt and defended holding the briefing behind closed doors, citing victim privacy reasons. Quote, so, you want to talk about victims? You want to talk about mistakes that you think that your department made? Let's do it, Blanche told News Nation's Chris Cuomo, I believe is, Cuomo, on Friday. Quote, ask any questions you want, and we'll answer it. That's exactly what we should have done, he continued. Do you think that we should have had a meeting open to the public when we're going to talk about concerns they have over redactions and our process? Yeah. It's not like the whole point of the Epstein Files Transparency Act is related to that. And isn't it so rich that these people now at the 11th hour are trying to cite concerns over redactions, even though they also want to simultaneously say, oh, we only had a small amount of time in order to get the documents together, so the fact that we weren't able to properly redact things, it's kind of understandable when you really think of it that way. No, if you guys fuck up redactions, and you name a whole bunch of fucking victims, you don't then after the fact get to go, oh, but guys, there might be redactions that are going to be discussed in that meeting. Do we really want that to be open and available to the public? Yeah, I'm sure the people that have actually had concern for the Epstein victims wouldn't take that into account and make sure that the victims were not among the specific people named among the redactions. No, of course. When we're talking about redactions now, they want you to only think about the victims. The people that they've spent all this time not giving a shit about by basically telling you that the fucking files are a Democrat hoax. And therefore, that the people named in those files as victims are all just a bunch of fucking hucksters themselves. You're then all of a sudden supposed to believe that these people have this deep fucking abiding care for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein? Give me a fucking break. Nobody is buying that shit. Not a single person is buying that narrative. At least nobody with a fucking half a brain in their head. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, do you remember? Because I remember a certain time last year. It's been brought up a few times on this particular channel. That would be an event last year concerning the death of one Charlie Kirk. I know. You'd think it'd be a rote talking point. It's already been talked about 1,000 times. Oh God, Aiden. Here we go again. Talking about Charlie Kirk. Why don't you just move on? Well, you know why I won't move on. Because every single time that I talk about Charlie Kirk, and I talk about the death of Charlie Kirk, there's always something new that comes out in relation to it. And this is no exception. Because President Donald Genius Trump decided to tweet recently in his typical, very astute political fashion, very understanding and in keeping with the cadence and character of the President of the United States. He tweeted out and said, Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He could no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump. I wonder what innocent people Trump is referring to here. Who's the Mueller report all about again? What was that whole hullabaloo all about before? Oh, right. It was about you, Donald. You want to call yourself a fucking innocent person? God damn, if that's not a rich fucking concept, I don't know what is. I really don't. And by the way, if you don't know how this doesn't pertain to fucking Charlie Kirk and what happened to him, then let me just outline it for you as clearly as I possibly can, alright? The President of the United States of America is actively celebrating the former FBI director dying. Now, granted, he didn't die violently. I believe he died of complications related to Parkinson's. But nevertheless, here he is, celebrating Mueller's death. And why is he celebrating Mueller's death? Because Mueller crossed him personally and did something against him. Meanwhile, when it comes to Charlie Kirk, a political podcaster, a political influencer, who, yes, was wrongfully killed, what do you get as a direct response to the climate of, wow, we really shouldn't celebrate that? Wasn't that the primary criticism? Was that we shouldn't celebrate people's deaths? That we shouldn't celebrate any kind of fucking political related fucking death? And yeah, I agree. The director of the FBI shouldn't be a politicized death. That shouldn't be something that's cast under political lines. But guess what? When the fucking President of the United States is out here actively fucking celebrating that shit, the parallels really aren't that fucking hard to find. Especially When in the wake of the fucking Charlie Kirk shooting, you got articles like this, where J.D. Vance is out here saying this type of shit.
J.D. Vance here, live from my office in the White House complex, and filling in for somebody who cannot be filled in for, but I'm going to try to do my best. My dear friend, the great Charlie Kirk. He was a joyful warrior for our country. He loved America. He devoted himself tirelessly to making our country a better place. He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts. Everyone knew him as this fearless debater, this guy who would take the conservative message into hostile places and inspire younger generations to have courage. One thing that's hit a lot of those young Americans over the last week was how Charlie was there for them when others were not. When they were afraid to speak their minds, when they were afraid of what a professor would say, when they were afraid that they would be shouted down by their peers, Charlie was there, showing them that they could be courageous and that they could be bold. We're going to pay tribute to his courageous legacy, and we're going to commit to keep it forever alive.
And that sounds pretty good, right? For the most part. Sounds really honorable. But then, you realize a part of that statement is, call them out. And hell, call their employer, Vance said, as he guest hosted an episode of the Charlie Kirk Show. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. Oh, you believe in civility? That's why your fucking boss, the President of the United States, is out there actively fucking celebrating Robert Mueller's death, a fucking death that he actively fucking politicized by fucking celebrating it as a fucking death of somebody that was innocent. Sorry, but if the President of the United States wants to fucking talk about steak and eggs in a movement that he has created that hyper-politicizes quite literally every single topic around him, unfortunately, steak and eggs are now a topic of political contention. And you know why? Because it was intentionally fucking designed that way by this goddamn movement. It's not a coincidence. It's really not. Thank you for the sub. I'm at Easter brunch at the moment. That's awesome. I'm glad you got a sub. Yeah, everybody, go and subscribe to Jimmy Tux TV. Jimmy Tux is a cool guy. He's been hanging around the channel for a few streams at this point. Maybe going on about a month at this point you've been hanging around, Jimmy. So that's like half the lifespan of this whole fucking channel. In any case, thank you for hanging around here. And yeah, everybody go drop a sub on Jimmy Tux TV. Anyways, yeah, the point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that not only did J.D. Vance say call them out and call their employers, but over 600 people were fired as a direct result. More than 600 people were either fired or punished, rather, I should say. Not every one of them were fired. But hundreds of people lost their jobs as a direct result of just talking about the shit related to Charlie Kirk. And yet, Donald Trump is allowed to go on fucking social media and actively celebrate Robert Mueller's death. Robert Mueller's 22-month special counsel investigation, 2017 to 2019, into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election resulted in indictments against 34 people and 3 companies. Yeah, which last I checked is a lot more progress than the over 60 fucking court cases that Donald Trump tried to fucking drag through regarding the 2020 election, all of which went nowhere whatsoever. But hey, when Donald Trump's political opponents take him to task and actually make a whole bunch of fucking progress doing so, that's when they're going after innocent people. Horrible, innocent. It's absolutely horrible what they're doing to them. No, the only thing that's horrible is the fact that the only people that are shielded from the consequences of their actions are people like you, Trump. People that endlessly get to fucking shout from your soapbox about stuff that inevitably just heightens the fucking degree of political discourse, heightens the fucking degree that people view each other as enemies rather than fellow Americans. You just get to do that endlessly without any real significant consequence brought to you. And every single time any kind of consequence is potentially going to get brought to you, i.e., getting absolutely shafted in the November midterms, what do? You pitch a fucking shit fit. You try to fucking pass the Save America Act, and when you don't have enough fucking votes to pass the Save America Act, you just reach your fucking hand up the legislative arm of the United States government's ass and say, you're gonna pass it anyway, you're gonna get it through, you're not a real leader unless you get that passed right now. Yeah. Just put a shitload of fucking pressure on them in order to pass the bill that you want pushed through, and on top of that, push a fucking absolute boondoggle, non sequitur fucking trans appendment to that bill in order to try and flag a couple of extra people on top of the movement that are just have literal trans derangement syndrome. You know what the funny thing is? All these people out here that go, oh, you got Trump derangement syndrome. You got Andrew Wilson derangement syndrome. You've got all these derangement syndromes. They love throwing those terms around. But you know what the definition of a derangement is? It's blowing something out of proportion. It's not the actual official definition. It's like a colloquial one that I'm just kind of throwing at you offhand. Make no mistake. But derangement would be like the massive blowing out of proportion of a problem to the level where it doesn't actually exist on the level it's purported to. And the issue of trans people, a group of people that make up not even a full percentage of the population, as though they're this existential threat to American family values and this existential threat to America itself as per being thrown into the Save America Act. Like, all of that shit is the definition of a derangement. So if anybody has a fucking derangement syndrome, these people have trans derangement syndrome. They can't fucking stop. They can't stop talking about it. They can't put it out of their minds. They just fucking obsess over it. They obsess over other people and what other people are doing in their own fucking lives. And meanwhile, when you call out a person that has the power to be able to execute fucking massive sweeping change over the country and is actively attempting to do so via things like Project 2025, anytime that criticism gets brought up, that's somehow completely irrelevant. We need to go back to focusing on those weirdo individuals whose lives really don't affect anybody on a large scale whatsoever. Anyways, you're the deranged one. Like, what? Anyways, not to get off on too long of a tangent, getting into our next segment here, let's take a look at this video that we've got here. Now, what segment do we have next here? Only you will be able to determine based on the video that I've got.
Sir, I need to see your papers right now.
Papers? I'm buying a drink. What's this about?
Identification, immigration status. Let's go.
Oh, police captain. Badge is right here.
Step back from your waist.
See? Gold Shield Department ID, Captain Marcus Reeves, Metro PD.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Could be fake. You need to produce immigration documents.
Listen,
Call my
sir.
precinct.
Two ICE agents, Derek Hoffman and Luis Vega, approached a black man in civilian clothes at 3:47 p.m., their body cameras capturing Hoffman's opening line, "Where are you from and you have documentation?" The man stayed calm as Vega moved his hand toward his weapon. What they didn't know was that they were illegally detaining Captain Michael Torres, a decorated police officer whose federal lawsuit would cost the government $12.4 million and expose a pattern of racial profiling that ended both their careers. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure.
That sounds like a big deal, right? That sounds like a big deal. That's why I didn't want to leave too much commentary on the actual video itself. I wanted it to kind of play out. I was like, holy shit. But wait a second. Wait a second. All of this stuff that's been happening with ICE, Don't get me wrong, it's been escalating a little bit, but at most, that would have been happening about a year ago from now. How the hell did they get a court case settled in that small of a period of time and get that large of a settlement through in that small of a period of time? So I did a little bit of digging, right? I did some digging. First and foremost, what you got to do is check the page, right? See what the actual group is that you're looking at. Nicholas Ohia, 11K followers. Looks like they're they've got political content on there, but not a really big page. Washington DC. Anyways, you go on and you look up other things associated with this case, right? You look up the specific names associated with that case. And when you do that, hold on. I gotta pull the video back up again here just to really show you the level of absurdity that we're getting into here. So you pull up another article accompanying this, right? And this is the face of the guy. Reese Marcus was booked into the McLean County Jail on March 28, 2024 for the following. Yeah, this is not even related to any of this whatsoever. This is totally unrelated, but this is the only thing that would come up even vaguely related to the story. So this is another example, ladies and gentlemen, of misinformation. Pure, plain, simple, unadulterated misinformation that's getting spread out there. You got to be careful. You really do. When you're out there just browsing the interwebs and you think you got an understanding of the stories that you're looking into, you really do got to just give them a second look and be sure, wait a second, just because that sounds like something that they would do, and that sounds really shocking, let me look into that really quick, you know? Anyways, moving on to our next piece here. We've got the U.S. has reverse engineered Iran's Shahad kamikaze drone design and is now planning to mass produce its own version for combat use. So that's the article that I had initially pulled up, right? That was the one that was on my timeline when I initially pulled it. And I was like, okay, time to pull another thing for the fucking misinformation segment, because actually, hold on. Oh, I already closed it. No, I didn't mean to close the tab. Damn it. I was going to actually click on the main page itself there and kind of take a look at it like the other ones. However, yeah, suffice it to say, upon doing a little bit of digging, there's actually a little bit of substantiation to this, because the first article that I saw was from New Scientist, and I didn't know anything about New Scientist. However, digging into them, they actually seem like a semi-credible source. They actually do kind of seem like they are trying to, like, release things that are fairly credible. So, upon looking into New Scientist, they say why the U.S. is using a cheap Iranian drone against the country itself. A bit of confusingly worded article, I must say. Like, against the country itself? I mean, I guess you understand it upon giving it a second read, but I don't know. Probably do that over a second time would be what I would recommend. The U.S. and Iran are trading blows in the Gulf with a simple drone that costs as little as $50,000 to make. But why is a slow, cheap, and relatively primitive drone seeing use in 2026? Oh shit! By the way, I totally forgot. I thought that I had the invite link posted out there in the side chat. Let me just get the invite link thrown out there for everybody. Let's see. Did it actually post in the side chat? Did YouTube behave itself? Yes, it did. Okay, the restream link is out there. Anybody that wants to join the stream is welcome to do so. Sorry about that, guys. I've been a little bit busy lately. I've really kind of been rushing around doing a whole bunch of different stuff right now. So the fact that I've been a bit disorganized is kind of to be expected, unfortunately. But anyways, on we plow. Irregardless, please feel free to join if you would like. I'm not able to read on, unfortunately, because it asks me to do a subscription here, which I'm just not going to do. But suffice it to say, I found this article, and then I kind of did a little bit more digging. And then I found another one here. And I hadn't heard of this place either, The Conversation. However, doing some digging, apparently The Conversation is an even more reliable publication than New Scientist. And they actually have a full article here that we can kind of discuss. So, how the US copied a cheap Iranian kamikaze drone and used it to bomb Iran. As Pete Hegseth, the Fox News host turned Donald Trump's defense secretary, stood on the front lawn of the Pentagon to record a promotional video in July 2025, a drone hovered above him. Hegseth said that America's adversaries had produced millions of cheap drones, and it was time for the U.S. to catch up. The Trump administration, he added, would arm combat units with, quote-unquote, a variety of low-cost American-crafted drones as part of a plan to secure U.S. drone dominance. A few days later, Hegseth toured a display of 18 American-made prototype drones. One of those on display was a low-cost, uncrewed combat attack system, or LUCAS, drone. By December, a squadron of these kamikaze drones was already in the Middle East. The LUCAS drones may have been made in America. They are a reversed engineered copy of the kamikaze Iranian drone called a Shahed. Now, the US military has deployed them to attack Iran. In this episode of the Conversation Weekly podcast, we speak to Arun Dawson, a PhD researcher at King's College London, about how the Iranians developed these Shahed drones, why the US decided to copy them, and what role these low-cost drones might play in the future of warfare. Quote, each of these drones costs $35,000 or £26,000, says Dawson, compared with the $3.6 million for each Tomahawk cruise missile. Quote, with an American-style defense budget, you can buy enough of them that you can completely saturate the capabilities of an adversary to respond. Yeah, that definitely doesn't mean, like, basically the equivalent of what they did during the Korean War, just in a more modernized fashion. By the way, for anybody that's unfamiliar with American tactics during the Korean War, they effectively leveled the entire fucking country. Like, there was literally, I think, almost no building taller than, like, 2 stories left in that country whatsoever after the American bombing campaign of North Korea. And what they're talking about by completely saturating an enemy's ability to respond is going to be exactly equivalent to that. Because, as I've demonstrated so many times before, just because America has done a bad at one point in the past and fucking carpet bombed an entire country to oblivion and then wondered why its entire society now revolves around a hatred of that country. Something tells me that they haven't learned that lesson and aren't going to not repeat their mistakes when it comes to Iran. Anyways, on we plow. Once you've achieved that, he explains, you can then send in your high expertise equipment to do the dirty job of delivering a pretty large, decisive payloads on particular targets. That's what the American military is beginning to explore and pivot towards. So basically, America is adapting its military tactics. And in classic fashion, even though America spends untold hundreds of billions of dollars on its defense budget, and even though I have actually on a few occasions tried to give the American defense sector credit as being one of the few aspects of the American society that is still innovating rather than imitating. Apparently I'm wrong. As per what Mr. Logo said, not only are they copying stealth technology from other countries abroad, but they're also copying Iranian drone technology as well. And you know what? Maybe there is an argument for the effectiveness of this as a tactic. Only time will tell, and unfortunately, only time will tell how many innocent people as well will die as a direct result of this tactic beginning to be rolled out and implemented. But we're beginning to see that the American military is falling into the exact same habits as other aspects of American technological development, where you guys are just starting to follow behind and copy what the other guy is doing, rather than coming up with your own fucking ideas. Anyways, let's move on to our next segment, and let's keep in mind what we just saw when looking at this particular segment here.
The Department of Defense has a missiles shortage in the war against Iran, correct?
That is not correct. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Secretary of Defense, President Trump have all declared that we have the munitions we need to prosecute this action.
Okay. I don't think you're telling the truth, because the president held an emergency meeting on March 6th with all the top defense contractors literally talking about the missile shortage and why we have to quadruple missile production.
Then we're surprised when we don't have enough munitions.
Well, actually, we don't have enough munitions because we didn't have this deal in the first place.
So first and foremost, the obvious contradiction arises of which one is it? Do they have enough or don't they have enough? Especially when the President of the United States has gone on record saying that we have an infinite supply of ammunition. We have all the munitions that we'll ever need. We basically have an unlimited amount. We've entered the cheat code in a video game where you just get unlimited ammo. That's basically what America's got right now, folks. Like, that's the stance on one hand. But then at the same time, the American fucking defense contractors come to the fucking taxpayer and go, you know what, guys? We're actually kind of running out of missiles right now, trying to bomb all these innocent people in these schools. Could you guys give us another, like, $20 or $30 million in order to, like, get another pod of missiles that are absurdly expensive? Ugh. It's absolutely horrific. It really is. Anyways, it really is a question of if you're going to mass produce a shitload of low-cost drones rather than using really expensive missiles, what are you going to use that amount of drones for? Because something tells me, I have a slight inkling, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I would be able to bet every single fucking penny in my savings account right now, on the idea that even if they take a lower cost approach by using Iranian-style drones in Iran, that defense budget is not going to get one penny smaller. It is not going to shrink. It's not going to dilute. It's literally just going to keep fucking growing. So what does that mean? That means rather than having 10 missiles to use on Iran, they now have 1,000 drones. They talked about it themselves in the fucking article that I just read. Fucking Pete Hegseth himself talked about it. The Secretary of War. He's not the Secretary of Defense anymore, folks. He's the Secretary of War. He himself talked about how you can use that shit to just fucking saturate an entire region. So make no mistake, the lower cost, quote-unquote, sales pitch that might be used in order to fucking justify this program as it gets more widely used and rolled out is also going to come with a shitload more fucking death and destruction as a direct fucking result. As for $200 billion now, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not surprised. Fortunately, $200,000 million, which is what $200 billion is, by the way, I'm not surprised that they need $200,000 million in order to fucking do another round of fucking attacks in this region. And for the whole world to help them in a war that they've won already, right? Right? Isn't that one of the funniest parts of this whole fucking narrative? We won, guys! We got the whole fucking thing sorted out already. You guys don't even need to worry about it. But, by the way, we're gonna need your boats. We're gonna need your boats, Japan. Are you gonna be able to send some boats? And they're like, I don't really think that the situation has escalated to the level where we really need to send anything over there right now. I don't think that we're gonna do that. Okay, what about you, Germany? Nein, I do not think that we are going to do that. I think that we are going to stay over here. Okay, what about you, Spain? What about you? You're gonna come over and help us, right? I'm gonna be able to use your bases, right? And they said no. Once again. Like, every single fucking ally that Trump is trying to fucking beseech right now, including fucking basically the Japanese version of Trump. If you look up the fucking Prime Minister of Japan, she's basically just the fucking female Trump. Also a fucking far-right extremist. Also has a lot of really fucking far-right extremist ideas. I didn't pull the story. I really should have. It was foolish of me. But I'm sure all of you have already fucking seen it. I probably don't even need to pull the fucking article. I might for next show, just for the sake of kind of putting it on record on this channel. But he's literally there in the White House talking about how, I don't need to talk about surprises with the Japanese. You remember Pearl Harbor, right? And the look on her fucking face when he does that. Just a giant fucking big old shit being taken on the biggest American ally in East Asia. Right then and there, for really no good reason whatsoever. Robin, your comment got censored in the chat, but I'm going to read it over here anyways. I don't know why it didn't come through over on the YouTube end. But you said, Mueller volunteered for the Marine Corps and served in the Vietnam War while Trump hid under his bone spurs. Republicans choosing a cowardly draft dodger over a man who voluntarily served in wartime was not on my bingo card. Yeah, agreed. Honestly, for a party that supposedly is so rah, we love the troops, God bless America, the troops are everything, they really have just roundly kind of forgotten about that in favor of a guy that now is talking about how we don't want, I don't know if you guys saw this. Once again, probably gonna have to pull this for the record on the next show, but you guys see Mueller talking about how we don't want fat troops. We don't want fat troops that are running America. These fat generals that you see that are walking around right now in the White House, it's unacceptable. They're basically just trying to do a less raspy version of Trump's voice. It's basically Mueller. But, or not Mueller, sorry, silly me, Hegseth. All these names, they're bobbling around in my empty head right now, my empty liberal mind. But yeah, Hegseth was talking about how we don't need fat generals. And it's okay, what about the fact that the fucking commander-in-chief of the United States of America is a blimp? What about that? I think that kind of is a little bit relevant to the idea that we shouldn't have quote-unquote fucking fat generals walking around because they're an embarrassment to America. When not only is the commander-in-chief a blimp, the commander-in-chief is actively fucking alienating himself from all of his allies. Censorship, right? Exactly, Robin. Exactly. Anyways, let's move on to our next piece here. And I've got to be honest with you. First and foremost, getting into a little bit more of this from Ted Lieu. I'm kind of wary about Lieu. I really am. I think that Lieu is kind of like this generation's Andrew Yang in a way. We're not just generations. It has been long enough since Yang. But this electoral cycles version of Yang is a much more apt way of putting it. I think that he's trying to appeal to a lot of populist talking points. But I also have a very deep, abiding suspicion, although I haven't really looked into him very much or his political career. I just have this deep, abiding suspicion that he is just going to fall in line and become another establishment Democrat the second that the Democrats inevitably seize back into power and take back the presidency of the United States. I don't think he's going to be the president or anything like that. I mean, maybe. There's like a very slight possibility. But in reality, I think he's just going to be another crony of a very milquetoast Democrat administration that is not going to walk back even a fucking tiny fraction of all of the fucking erosions of liberties that Trump has overseen over his 2 terms that he's going to have in office. I mean, mark me if I'm wrong, like, I'm just saying, for the future, I think this guy is just going to fall in line and not really do anything to help the common person. However, much like people like Bernie Sanders, that doesn't mean I'm not going to give them platforms when they're willing to speak the truth. It's still important that their truth be heard when it comes to that shit. Because it is true that right now America is pursuing an extremely untenable war as far as its current spending is concerned. Let's take a look.
The American economy is getting worse. The last economic report showed that GDP was revised downwards to an anemic 0.7% last quarter. It also showed that core PCE, the Fed's inflation gauge that they prefer, increased. So we have a slowing economy, increasing inflation, and now diesel has hit over $5 for the second time in U.S. history. All of this has hurt and will continue to hurt consumers even more. And what is the response from the Trump administration? I'm going to quote for you what Director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, said on national TV. He said that hurting consumers is, quote, the last of our concerns. So I want the White House to send Kevin Hassett to every single TV channel and to every single swing House district where you can tell the voters of America that hurting consumers is, quote, the last of their concerns. And that is where the administration is. They don't care about the American consumer. They don't care about people who can't make ends meet. And we're going to see what happens this November. I also now want to talk a little bit about the Iran war. I'm going to go back to a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing. We have a Department of Defense witness for acquisitions, and we have a problem in terms of a missile shortage. How do we know we have a missile shortage? Because the president called an emergency meeting earlier this month with all the top defense contractors talking about increasing missile production. Lockheed has said they are going to quadruple missile production. Well, that's great. Let me just give you some numbers. Right now, they make 8 THAAD missiles a month for a total of 96 the entire year. So even if you quadruple that, it's not a lot. It goes up to about 400. And you know how long it's going to take them to do it? In their own press release, 3 years. So that's where we are. And then you have Iran that has over 80,000 drones by some estimates and other ballistic missiles. And so they're launching all of this at U.S. bases, at allied countries, and we're firing THAAD missiles and Patriot interceptors. The cost of one Patriot interceptor is $4 to $4.5 million per missile. The cost of one THAAD missile is about $12 to $15 million per missile. The cost of an Iranian drone could be as low as $20,000. This is like launching Cadillacs at baseballs. It is not sustainable. And so I urge the Department of Defense and the administration to come up with a plan to Congress as to how they can sustain not only this war, but any future war, because clearly there's a huge mismatch between the weapons that the Department of Defense has and what our adversaries are able to launch at America and our allies.
So I just want to make the point that I was articulating earlier abundantly clear. It's not a matter of using Iranian-style drones to make the war cheaper. If that was in fact the case, then we would see some sort of marked decrease in the American military budget. But that can simply never happen. So instead, that amount of money will be spent on far more drones in order to saturate that same area with far more destruction. It's going to be equally untenable on the American taxpayer. It's just going to be a lot harder to justify on an individual level than, as Ted Lieu put it there, launching Cadillacs at baseballs. Because it's easy to show how one THAAD missile, one Patriot missile, costing millions of dollars and only deploying from certain set locations, is disadvantageous, both in terms of logistics as well as cost. But it's far more difficult to show how having 10,000 cheaply made American drones that cost just as much are also costly on the American taxpayer. Those things are, one is going to be a lot more easy to obscure than the other, is what I'm essentially trying to get at. And that's what we're going to see. Pardon me. I have a little bit of cotton mouth for some strange reason. I wonder why that might be the case. Ladies and gentlemen, we are fairly late into this stream, and trust me, I am not hitting the brakes on this by any stretch of the imagination. However, I will ask, if you have not liked the stream already and are enjoying it right now, please do drop a like on it. It would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's move into our next segment. I think that this conversation right here cuts to the heart of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about rising tensions that exist between the two primary political wings that make up American government right now. Because the way that these people, and when I say these people, let me be unequivocal, the way that people like Pete Hegseth and their ilk, when these people are out here trying to make all these talking points about the enemy, watch how they fucking run away like the weaselly little bitches that they are when they actually get confronted for this shit.
This is a gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Kane, Secretary Hegseth, and Mrs. McDonald. You're doing a great job today, Mrs. McDonald. Secretary Hegseth, we have a lot of things in common. In fact, our careers started the same way. We were both infantry officers. We were both platoon leaders. We both deployed our platoons to combat in a counterinsurgency environment. There are very few better leadership training grounds than that experience, and it's that experience that I want to transport us back into time, back to Lieutenant Hegseth and Lieutenant Crow. There are a lot of things that make a leader and that make a unit effective. Would you say that unit cohesion is important?
Unit cohesion amongst many is very important, yes, sir.
It's an important element. And part of that is making sure that all members of your unit felt included in that team, correct?
Far more important that every member of that unit felt capable to do the mission and united in that mission.
But that they were included and felt part of the team as well.
I wouldn't use the word inclusion, sir, but yes, they were cohering as a team, yes.
And that
of course you wouldn't use the word inclusion. Of course you wouldn't use the word include. Do you see how fucking politically goddamn charged these numpties are? This guy, who is supposed to be the fucking Secretary of War, quote unquote. What do you mean you wouldn't use the word inclusion in that fucking context? You lily-livered fucking coward. What the hell are you talking about? And I don't mean coward in terms of the fact that he hasn't served his country. Clearly he did take the time to do that. I mean cowardly in terms of the fact that how the hell are you capable of picking up a rifle but not answering a direct question as simply as going, well, I wouldn't use the word inclusion when it comes to the very obvious fact that you are included in a fucking unit. The brothers in arms mentality, the idea that the guy next to you is your battle buddy, that whole fucking idea of unit cohesion is drilled into the minds of American servicemen. The battle buddy system is in American military doctrine specifically because they recognized that that would be more effective at maintaining not just morale, but also unit effectiveness on the battlefield when they were responsible for accounting for somebody else directly in their unit. So fucking, you wouldn't use the word inclusion? Why? Because the word inclusion is fucking politically charged? Because when somebody watching at home looks at fucking inclusion, when Harold at the retirement home sees the word inclusion, they're gonna be thinking, oh no, what if they're talking about the inclusion, about the fucking people going to the wrong type of bathroom? That's how fucking politicized this shit has fucking gotten. That's how absurd this shit has gotten. Even the most basic of fucking terms have to be avoided and walked on eggshells for by these people who allegedly want to break up the woke mafia and their fucking policing of terminology, and yet they participate in the exact fucking same shit themselves, because in reality, surprise, surprise, it's the authoritarians that are the ones that want to actually fucking police people's speech. What a goddamn shock. And another thing that might be equally shocking, there's authoritarians on the left and the right. They exist on both ends of the fucking political spectrum. However, it seems like the universal trend that I've found in recent times is that the authoritarians on one extreme, surprise, surprise, will just try to endlessly justify their brand of authoritarianism by trying to fucking point to the fucking brand of authoritarianism that exists on the other end of the aisle and go, oh my god, look at them! Look at those people! Oh my god, the communists over there, they're trying to censor people's speech. They're trying to take away people's rights. Oh my god, look at them. And it's like, yeah, what about the shit that's happening in your own fucking country? Right in front of you. Right in front of you. But you don't care. You don't give a shit. Because you're too fucking busy getting distracted with some other fucking bullshit, because I don't have the time in my life to be able to deal with that stuff right now. Well, guess what? There's going to come a time where it is going to insinuate itself in your life. In a way that, once it does, sorry to say, but it's going to be too late. Claude says, Heaven's daddy was the only survivor of his prison. Oh, sorry, his platoon. Why did I read that as prison for a second? Oh, I guess I read it because, you know, it's kind of natural to associate Kent and prison with each other. Sorry about that, Kent Hovind's dad. To Kent Hovind's father's credit, not only did he serve his country, but I'm pretty sure he never spent any time in prison either. So let the record state that he was, in fact, the only survivor of his platoon. Mr. Logo also says, USA wants to include someone, but it's not their allies from NATO. It's Putin's Russia. I mean, I don't know, man. It's the dynamic of how things have been playing out over the last couple of years here certainly does make that an interesting topic. I do need to get into a bit more coverage of what's going on in Ukraine on this show. I really haven't done a lot of coverage of Ukraine over here. I do think that's another topic that I need to get into, because I've covered another one is Yemen, because there's still plenty of shit going on in Yemen right now to this day that needs to get covered. So those are definitely two topics that I should be getting into a little bit more on this channel. By the way, if you are enjoying it all, please do drop a like I said before, and let's keep going with this video.
You reduce tension and infighting and points of tension between your platoon members so that you can focus on the mission. That was a part of the regular job.
Absolutely. That's why I've said that our diversity is our strength is the single dumbest phrase in military history.
And words
because
are important.
Our unity is our strength. And so unity amongst members, despite differences of backgrounds, race, whatever that is.
And I agree with you on that.
Together on a mission.
And words, part of that is words are important and setting the tone is important, correct? When you're a leader.
All aspects of leadership, mostly leading by example.
Did you ever tell them your political affiliation?
Guidance.
Did you ever tell your platoon members your political affiliation?
We certainly discussed lots of topics, and I'm sure my political affiliation.
Did you ever ask them theirs?
No, their political affiliation was never a concern to me.
Because it's important that everybody feel included and that people weren't excluded, correct? That would be antithetical to leadership.
I'm sure my platoon contained Republicans, Democrats, and independents, and I had no idea what their affiliation was.
Okay, that was actually my next question, so I appreciate you answering that.
Wow, look at that. An idea of a military that isn't hyper-politicized. The idea that, you know what? Maybe we disagree on our politics, but ultimately, aren't we here to fight for a common idea, a common identity? That being the unifier of our identity as Americans? Isn't that like the whole point of the American military, is to defend the homeland of the United States and make sure that people, both foreign and domestic, are incapable of affecting it?
You led your unit in a counterinsurgency environment and you interacted with civilians, correct?
Interacted with members of the civilian population, sure.
Yeah. And you were, in fact, a COIN instructor, a counterinsurgency instructor, correct?
In Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012, I was the senior counterinsurgency instructor.
And you signed off on a manual. There's actually a counterinsurgency manual that you signed off on and helped create. And your name is on that manual, correct?
We were a part of creating a lot of content at the COIN Academy, yes.
Do you remember this portion of the manual? It says, if you've killed 2 innocents, you've set yourself back more than you've moved forward. Do you still agree with that?
I would have to take a look at the manual, but obviously no one in warfare...
Hold on, I'm going to go back and actually try to get... Okay. I think I'm able to read that at this point. It's kind of blurry, but... you're hurting yourself a lot more than you're helping yourself. Even if you've killed 5 bad guys, if you've killed 2 innocents, you've set yourself back more than you've moved forward.
I would have to take a look at the manual, but obviously no one in warfare is seeking to kill innocents.
Okay. Because it's important to show why we're different from the enemy. Because we're not the enemy, right? We're different from our adversary. Would you agree with that? We have different morals and different values.
Right. Surely that's going to be the case, right? Like, it's pretty obvious. It seems like a pretty fucking easy question to answer, as a matter of fact. We're different than our enemy? Like, that's got to be the easiest thing to fucking ever answer.
We are not the enemy, sir.
We have different morals and we have different values than the enemy.
We have a code, a uniform code of military justice.
So the answer to that is
inside
yes.
Our formations that
you're not trying to compare us to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, are you? We're different.
I know the code of the United States military and army that I signed up for.
You can't tell me whether we're different?
Right hand.
You're not willing to say we're different?
Of course we're different.
Okay, thank you.
It's absurd.
Oh. Yeah, it's so absurd. I know. It really would seem absurd, wouldn't it? The idea that, oh yeah, we're different than Al-Qaeda and ISIS, yeah. Like, that would seem pretty fucking obvious on the face of it. But let's take a look.
That's why I'm trying to reconcile the fact that we learned many of the same lessons as platoon leaders about unit cohesion, making sure that people were included, that we didn't ask people's political affiliation, that we interacted respectfully with civilian populations, that what a leader says matters, that the tone you set matters, that we are not...
Let's take a look at this quote that we've got here brought up in the background. Would that not be an incentive for the other side to reconsider their barbarism? Hey, Al Qaeda, if you surrender, we might spare your life. If you do not, we will rip your arms off and feed them to hogs. Isn't that a nice quote? It's a nice quote.
Not the enemy, that we are different from them, we lead differently, we have different morals. How can I reconcile that experience and those lessons learned from Lieutenant Hegseth to now Secretary Hegseth, where you say things like what you just saw here, making us equivalent on the same standards as our adversaries, doing the same things that ISIS and Al-Qaeda would do? How can you possibly reconcile that? I can't. And just the other day down at Fort Bragg in our beloved 82nd Airborne Division, sitting there while we politicize the military and pull our paratroopers into politics, booing elected officials, booing politicians with whom you disagree. It's antithetical to our values, and you, sir,
Gentlemen,
have changed.
time's expired. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman.
I mean, he's right. The truth of the matter is that there is a hyper-politicization that is taking place. There's an alienation of a select group of people on multiple levels within the United States military. It's happening on a desecularization level. It's happening on the level that was just described in that video that I just showed. It's multilateral. What's occurring right here? And if you think that that isn't causing a large amount of people within the United States military to question, not necessarily their loyalty to the state, nor do I think it should make them question their loyalty to the state itself, because ideally, the state of the United States of America does not represent the policies in keeping with the current administration of the United States of America. So it shouldn't cause them to lose loyalty to the state. It shouldn't cause them to question loyalty to the state. It should cause them to question whether or not, as I said just a moment ago, that state is currently in keeping with the values prescribed by its Constitution, by its Bill of Rights, and that it allows for its people to be free of enemies, foreign and domestic, when this is the current political environment that we live within. You know? Anyways, moving on to our next segment, we've got some Canadian news here. 7-year-old BC girl and her mother being held by U.S. immigration officials in Texas. Tania Warner, 7-year-old daughter Ayla Lucas, live in United States legally, family says. Family and friends are expressing fears for a Penticton, BC woman and her daughter who have been detained by U.S. authorities in Texas and are currently in an immigration holding facility. Tania Warner, a 47-year-old who families say is legally in the U.S. on a worker's visa, and daughter Ayla Lucas were stopped at a U.S. border checkpoint on their way back from a baby shower. Ayla, 7, has autism, leading to fears from loved ones that border detention could be disturbing for her. Really, you don't say. You don't say. Yeah, this administration, it's so fucking friendly toward people that have disabilities, isn't it? Husband Edward Warner lives with Tania and Ayla in Kingsville, Texas. The two were on their way back from a baby shower in Raymondville on Sunday and had to stop at a mandatory border checkpoint in Sarita, Texas. It was something that they had done before without any issues at the checkpoint, which is located inside the U.S. and not at an international border. But this time, Edward says his wife and stepdaughter were detained. They are among dozens of Canadians who have been detained by U.S. immigration authorities whose tactics, as part of an ongoing immigration crackdown across the U.S., have faced criticism over alleged human rights abuses. Quote, a little freaked out. It's definitely traumatizing for a 7-year-old, Edward told CBC News on Tuesday. Very not happy being there. I wouldn't be either. My wife's having anxiety attacks and all sorts of problems, he added. So this is where this happens. This is in Raymondsville, I believe. Yep. So they're all the way down here. Tania and Ayla were held at the Ursula Detention Center, the largest U.S. Customs and Border Protection detention center, for 6 days. They have since been moved to the Dilley facility and are still together, said family and friends Mario Munoz, whose baby shower the two were returning from. Munoz said that Dilley Immigration Processing Center is considering more family-friendly. And yeah, that's definitely the impression that we got when we looked at that woman who was literally fucking forced to be deported while she was fucking pregnant, in spite of the fact that doctors told them that she ought to stay in the country. She was literally fucking forced to leave anyways and have her baby elsewhere. But yeah, they're so fucking friendly. So family friendly over at Dilley, right, guys? Oh. Gotta love it over there. And he hopes communication with Tania and Ayla will be easier. Quote, our hope now is that they will be able to get them the paperwork to work on getting them out, said Munoz. CBC News reached out to U.S. federal authorities for this story, but did not immediately hear back before publication. A spokesperson for Global Affairs Canada said that it was aware of multiple cases of Canadians currently or previously in immigration-related detention in the United States, and consular officials would provide assistance as required by international law. Consular officials advocate for Canadian citizens abroad and raise concerns about justified and serious complaints of ill treatment or discrimination with the local authorities, but cannot exempt Canadians from local legal processes, the spokesperson wrote. Due to privacy considerations, no further information can be disclosed. System is just designed to be cruel. So Tania has been living in the U.S. for about 5 years, Munoz told CBC News. He said Tania and Ayla initially moved to Texas on a visitor visa to be with Edward. About 3 years ago, Tania and Edward got married, and she later obtained a worker's visa. Quote, I know she's got legal working status, so we were completely caught off guard by them taking her in, said Munoz. So it's not even like they were there illegally. This isn't even like a story where I'm fucking complaining, where it's like, oh, you know, it sucks that they came there illegally and got detained because they're Canadian. No! There's literally no fucking good reason for why these people are in fucking custody whatsoever. They just got gaffled the fuck up, and like so many other people are expected to just silently fucking rot away absent of any real goddamn justice being done for them. That's what's happening right here. That's the actual fucking story that needs to be fucking covered here. These people are rotting away, and their lives are needlessly being ruined right now in real time. Why? Because of a fucking organization that blatantly does not fucking care for any kind of fucking human dignity, does not care for any kind of actual fucking human extrication in any way that is in keeping with justice or proper fucking keeping with the law whatsoever. I mean, like, fuck's sakes, guys. How many cases? How many does it gotta be? Democratic Texas Congressman Vincent Gonzalez said in a statement that his office is in contact with the Warner family. Gonzalez said that Tania had a valid work permit and should not be in detention and is calling for her and Ayla's immediate release. Quote, "We must bring them home and reunite yet another family being ripped apart by this administration's rogue immigration enforcement operations," said Gonzalez. Munoz said just hours before their detainment on Saturday, Ayla had been playing with his niece and granddaughter at the baby shower. To go from having a great day to being literally in jail, like locked up, detained for a 7-year-old, any 7-year-old, that's insane, she said. Yeah, there you go. There's a nice little photograph of her. Look at that. Right at the baby shower for Lindsay Gonzalez and Mario Munoz just hours before being detained. So yeah, here she is just a few hours before her fucking life as she knows it and understands it just gets completely fucking ripped away. Or she gets fucking thrown in a fucking cell for the crime of what exactly? What did she do wrong? What did her mother do wrong? What did these people do wrong again? What did any of these fucking people that I'm covering on these fucking shows that get fucking best case scenario thrown in fucking jail and gaffled up for weeks on end, and worst case scenarios left to fucking freeze to death on a fucking freezing night on a fucking sidewalk somewhere? How many fucking instances of this need to happen, people? Moving into our next story here, we have got pregnant migrant girls held at Texas center criticized for inadequate care. Since July, the Trump administration has been sending all pregnant, unaccompanied minors apprehended by immigration enforcement to a single group shelter in Texas. Some of the administration's own child welfare officials object to this policy, saying that the facility lacks specialized care that the girls need. Anna Nawaz spoke with Mark Battencourt, a journalist who spent 6 months reporting on this story. Since last July, the Trump administration has been sending all pregnant, unaccompanied minors apprehended by immigration enforcement to a single group shelter in South Texas. Some of the administration's own child welfare officials object to this policy, saying the facility lacks specialized care that the girls need. I spoke yesterday to Mark Battencourt, the journalist. Yeah, okay, you're basically just repeating yourself at this point. Mark Battencourt, the California newsroom and Texas newsroom. Thanks for having me, Anna. So let's start with this is literally just a transcript of the freaking interview. Damn it. I thought this was a little bit more than just that. Come on, guys. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I thought that was going to be a little bit more substantial. I thought that I had done adequate reading on these prior to pulling all of these, but apparently I didn't quite do that with this one. My bad. Moving on to our next article, because I could play it, but at the same time, if I did, then I might get copyright struck. So moving on, I just want you to look at the phrasing of this story. This comes directly from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This is directly from their website. This is, I think, the first thing I have pulled directly from their website. And the reason why I wanted to pull it directly from their website is because I wanted to compare and contrast what they say in this and what other media organizations, the ones that quote-unquote distort the truth, say about what fucking happened here. So, criminal illegal alien from Mexico passes away at Glades County Detention Facility. Miami. Royer Perez Jimenez, 19, A criminal illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested and charged with misdemeanor fraud for impersonation and resisting an officer passed away on March 16th at the Glades County Detention Center in Moore Haven. He was pronounced deceased at 2:51 a.m. Wow. Look at that. This Royer Perez Jimenez guy sounds pretty awful according to this fucking article, doesn't he? Sounds pretty horrible. A criminal, illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested and charged with misdemeanor fraud for impersonation and resisting an officer? That sounds absolutely horrible until you actually look into the fucking story surrounding what fucking happened with this guy. And you know what the real story is, ladies and gentlemen? This criminal, illegal alien from Mexico, while yes, having illegally migrated to the United States, while yes, that does technically make him a criminal. You know what he did in order to get caught by the police officers and get charged for these fucking crimes that are being listed on this website? He crossed multiple lanes on a scooter. He was on an electrical scooter. He crossed multiple lanes in a spot that he shouldn't have crossed, and he got pulled over by police. Or sorry, he got pulled over by, I believe that he got pulled over by police. Let me double check this. Hold on. It might even say in this fucking, even the fucking misappropriated article, whether or not it does. Glades County Detention Officer on duty. Yeah, so it would have been the police. Found him. They tried to get his identity. And over the course of trying to get this guy's identity, he did commit a crime by misidentifying himself. He said he was somebody that he wasn't. He committed fraud by doing so. And then the resisting the officer that's then purported in this story consisted of, upon finding out that he gave a faulty name because he illegally emigrated to the United States, he tried fleeing on the scooter. It was a non-violent altercation. He never did anything to the police officer. He never tried to hurt the police officer. He tried to flee the scene. Which, once again, none of that is a good thing. But think about that. Is that the way that this is phrased right here? Is that at all the way that this is being phrased whatsoever? While it's technically correct, all the details here are technically accurate. The way that it's being phrased here is blatantly being done in the most dehumanizing way possible. Because let's just, with all of that context in mind, compare and contrast what actually happened versus what is presented here. All right? So in this story, Royer Perez Jimenez, 19, a criminal illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested and charged with misdemeanor fraud for impersonation and resisting an officer, passed away March 16th. In reality, Royer Perez Jimenez was an illegal alien who did come to the United States illegally, but he was minding his own business on his scooter. He crossed lanes he shouldn't have crossed during traffic. Shouldn't have done that. Not a good idea whatsoever. So he gets stopped. When he gets stopped, he identifies himself as somebody he isn't. And upon being found out for misidentifying himself, flees the scene or attempts to on his scooter. Don't get me wrong. That's not some it's very far from some like cut and dry, this guy's perfectly innocent of any wrongdoing. But is that really how this is being presented here? At all? No. That's not how this is being presented. In reality, this is a Mexican teen who is trying to make a fucking life for himself in the United States, who ended up fucking dying by what is right now presumed to be suicide, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure it gets into that even in this fucking shitfuck article. So approximately 2:34 a.m., a Glades County detention officer on duty found Perez unconscious and unresponsive. Oh, wait, no. So it was a detention officer that found him. So it wasn't, I don't even know if it was a cop. For sure, that found him. It could have been an ICE agent. Could have been a cop, could have been an ICE agent. I'm pretty sure that I actually is revealed in the accompanying article I pulled from CBC. So hopefully it gets into that there, where it doesn't here. Found Perez unconscious and unresponsive. They immediately called a medical emergency in the dormitory, and staff started, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. 2 medical personnel responded a couple of minutes later, determined Perez to be without a pulse, and took over CPR. They requested emergency medical services. At approximately 2:42 a.m., Moorhaven Fire Rescue EMS arrived at the Glades County Detention Center and initiated life-sustaining interventions on Perez. He died of a presumed suicide. However, the official cause of his death remains under investigation. On January 21st, Perez was arrested by the Edgewater Police Department, taken to the Volusia County Jail, and charged with fraud for impersonation and misdemeanor resisting an officer. ICE placed an immigration detainer on him January 22nd and was transferred into ICE custody on February 21st. He was subsequently moved to Glades County Detention Center on February 26th. At intake, Perez was evaluated by medical staff. He denied any behavioral health issues or concerns and answered no to all suicide screening questions. Perez initially entered the United States February 19th, 2022. He was encountered by the U.S. Border Patrol and granted a voluntary return to Mexico on the same day. On an unknown date, he illegally re-entered the United States, a federal felony. Consistent with ICE policy, ERO notified the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the DHS Office of Inspector General, and the ICE Office of Professional Responsibility via the Integrity Coordination Center. ERO had notified the Mexico consulate in accordance with international and domestic laws and notified his next of kin or other designated contract. So ICE makes official notifications to Congress, non-governmental organizations, shareholders, and the media upon official reports of in-custody alien deaths and posts of news related with relevant details of ICE's public website. Yeah, that's really fucking great, you goddamn fucking monsters. Anyways, even according to their own fucking article here, he answered no to all fucking suicidal, any suicidality screenings. He answered no to. He said he wasn't suicidal. He wasn't interested in partaking in that. And yet, he still, allegedly, according to this, not that any official cause of death has been released yet, but his death has been ruled a suicide. Let's just say that that is the case. Let's say that he wasn't killed by ICE, or that he wasn't killed by a fellow inmate, or that he didn't die due to just sheer fucking neglect. Let's just grant that he did take his own life, unfortunately. Do you really think that a guy who is just going about his business before being gaffled up, and then subsequently, after saying that he wasn't interested in doing that, after being held in a facility for almost a month in what has been described as extremely fucking deplorable conditions, if you think that that fucking shit, on the level where he is literally willing to literally end his own existence in order to get out of those conditions, aren't horrifically deplorable and inhumane, then I don't know. I really don't know what would constitute that in your mind. The land of the free. Whoever told you that is an enemy. Yeah, no kidding, right, Achilles? The land of the free, where these people are literally fucking grilling themselves. I'm trying not to frickin' get caught up in YouTube strikes or community guidelines or whatever the hell. Where people are literally leaving this earthly plane because of how fucking deplorable the conditions are that they're being subjected to right now in these holding facilities. That's where we're at right now. So I just wanted to compare and contrast the head of that article with the head of this article. Mexican teen dies in U.S. immigration custody in Florida. Which is more accurate? Don't get me wrong. Both of them are technically accurate. But I think one of them is just a little fucking less dehumanizing than the other one. Don't you think? And doesn't it fucking say something that this organization is going out of its fucking way to try and dehumanize people in these sorts of articles from their actual website compared to the fake news, quote unquote, media? Oh no, they're so fake. What did they do? They tried to fucking humanize this fucking teenager? What a horrible fucking organization, right? 19-year-old is second person in ICE custody to die this week. 46th since Trump took office. That's just the 46th, guys. Just the 46th to fucking die in their custody. Not a wider problem with the organization at all. It just keeps happening by sheer happenstance, you know? I'm sure if you look into those, 99% of those are just of natural causes. 46th fucking death. What a goddamn fucking travesty. A 19-year-old Mexican migrant died at a county jail in Florida that had been holding immigrant detainees, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, said. According to ICE, Royer Perez Jimenez died of presumed suicide, although his official cause of death remains under investigation. The death of Perez Jimenez on Monday is the 46th reported under ICE custody since the start of U.S. President Donald Trump's administration in January 2025, according to a count by the Associated Press. Pierre Jimenez also is the second person to die in ICE custody this week after an Afghan immigrant whose family said that he had been evacuated from his country after working for years with U.S. forces died in a Texas hospital after being detained by immigration authorities, which, by the way, I covered on my previous fucking show. Died within 24 hours of being fucking detained by ICE. How did he die within 24 hours of being detained by ICE? Who the fuck knows? It's just kind of up to fucking all of us to collectively decide how he died. Apparently. But yeah, just another fucking person here, among so many others, that unfortunately has gotten caught up by this, let's face it, fucking death machine. That just takes innocent people, oftentimes, in its wake and just churns them up and either spits them out as a fucking horrifically traumatized person or as a fucking frozen corpse on the side of the road. What a fucking great organization, guys. I wonder why so many fucking Americans say that they overstep their bounds. I wonder why so many Americans advocate that this organization not get fucking abolished. Since the beginning of this year, 13 immigrants have died in ICE custody. Pierre Jimenez is the youngest to die in custody since the beginning of Trump's second term and his immigration crackdown. The Office of the District 21 Medical Examiner did not respond to the AP's request for the autopsy report. The Florida Prosecutor's Office referred any requests for information to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Attorney General's Office. The Mexican government said in a statement on Thursday that such immigration detention deaths are unacceptable and called for a prompt and thorough U.S. investigation to prevent a recurrence. Officials from the Mexican consulate in Miami visited the facility where Perez Jimenez was held and asked authorities for documentation about the case. Pierre Jimenez's death sparked condemnation within the immigrant community. Quote, immigration detention systems deprive people of freedom, isolate people away from loved ones, and subject people to abysmal conditions, says Carly Perez Fernandez, communications director at Detention Watch Network, a national coalition advocating against immigrant detention. Let's see. So ICE said An officer found Perez Jimenez unconscious and unresponsive at 2:34 a.m. local time on Monday at Yale County Detention Center on Moore Haven, Florida, a facility that former U.S. President Joe Biden administration shut down and the Trump administration reopened. Moore Haven is about 90 kilometers northeast of Fort Myers. The officers who found Perez Jimenez immediately called a medical emergency in the dormitory, and staff started, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, I said. 2 medical personnel arrived a few minutes later and determined Perez Jimenez. Yeah, it's just going to go over basically what has already been said. But yeah, that is this story. Unfortunately, yet another person that has been caught up by this horrible fucking system. I just, for the umpteenth time, wonder how many it has to be. But anyways, let's move on to this video that we have here from the Parallel Truth. Typically, the Parallel Truth has been a platform that I have used to cover the Iran war. However, as stated before, they do cover a variety of other industries and other topics. So I wanted to highlight one of their videos directly adjacent to this topic as being discussed right now. So let's take a look.
Can the United States survive without immigrants? Donald Trump has promised the largest deportation campaign in American history, an operation aimed at removing millions of people to bring back jobs for the Americans. But what would happen if he actually succeeds? Let's dive into the data and go through it sector by sector to get the real answer. In agriculture, a staggering 73% of all farm workers in the US are immigrants. In the construction industry, they make up nearly 1/4 of the entire workforce. These aren't just numbers, they are the people who build our homes and harvest our food. It's not because Americans can't do these jobs, but because there is a massive labour shortage. Without that workforce, the consequences would hit every family's wallet. A study by the American Farm Bureau Federation calculated that removing immigrant workers would cause US food prices to increase by 5% to 6%. But the impact doesn't stop there. Science, technology, and innovation also depend on immigrants. In Silicon Valley, over 60% of highly skilled workers are foreign, many of them from Asia, and they are not easily replaceable. A 2022 study by the National Foundation for American Policy found that more than half of America's billion-dollar startups were founded by an immigrant. If these people leave, the United States wouldn't just lose talent. China, Russia, and Europe would gain it, and that would be a direct hit to American competitiveness. But the quietest and most devastating damage would be the economic one. Let's talk about taxes. A common myth is that immigrants drain public resources, but according to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, even undocumented immigrants alone pay an estimated $11.7 billion in state and local taxes every year. Economists from the Center for American Progress project that a mass deportation would instantly slash the US GDP by $4.7 trillion over a decade. That means less money for everyone's pensions, healthcare, and education. In short, the data shows that without immigrants, the United States would become a more expensive, less innovative, older, and economically weaker country. So as contradictory as it may seem, America needs immigrants more than you think.
Yeah, one of the things that it only very briefly touched upon there is that it would get older as a direct result as well. And that is true. If you look at the population pyramid, quote unquote, that exists among many countries around the world, it's not actually oftentimes a pyramid. At least not within Western developed countries. It's not typically a pyramid. What you find is that it's actually a fairly evenly distributed. It's almost like a weird wave kind of formation in many Western countries. There are certain countries around the world that are developing countries, such as sub-Saharan Africa, and in some cases North Africa, although to lesser degree in North Africa, because it's considered widely to be more developed than sub-Saharan Africa, and the demographics kind of bode that out. But anyways, in developing countries, you find that there is indeed a pyramid kind of shaped structure where the bottom age demographics are very overrepresented. I'm not late. You're not late, Spooky, don't worry. You're not late at all. You showed up earlier on the stream, and the fact that you showed up earlier on the stream at all is something that I appreciate, my friend. But anyways, yes, younger age demographics are overrepresented in developing countries. And it does actually indeed look like a pyramid. Now, in highly developed countries that see little immigration, such as Japan, what you find is that it's a very top-heavy pyramid, where a lot of the population is very elderly. South Korea is another example of this. Where there's a lot of elderly people within the country, but there isn't much immigration coming into the country, and as a direct result, those people are not capable of replacing their populations due to the fact that more developed countries don't have nearly the same population pressures as far as having children. So, America, being a fairly developed country, you're going to see those sorts of population pressures decreased as a direct result. You know, America is a post-industrial country, and in a post-industrial country, you're going to be dealing with service-based economies rather than agrarian-based economies, which typically make up a kind of pre-industrial framework. And when you're looking at an agrarian society, you have and a silver medal to Spooky. Dang. You know what? At least Achilles is gracious. He's gracious in his victory. Anyways, in an agricultural, like agrarian-based society, you are going to want to have 5 or 6 kids bare minimum, because there are not going to be any kind of social safety nets in place, like Social Security, for you to fall back on in your old age. So you are going to have a number of kids, because it's expected that those children are going to help take care of you in your elder years. And there still is that expectation to a large degree in modern society when parents get to a certain age that you kind of help provide for them and take care of them in the later part of their life. But that wasn't just like something that was like a social taboo if you didn't do. It was literally required for all intents and purposes. And that's not the case in modern America. So when you have a whole bunch of immigrants coming into the country, it reintroduces a population growth and kind of stimulates the middle and lower parts of that population pyramid and prevents your population ultimately from stagnating and dying out. Because let's face it, when large parts of the Japanese population die 10 to 20 years from now, that's going to have huge ramifications on their society. Same with Korea. Just massive portions of their society are going to die and go away. And there's not going to be an equivalent amount of people to replace that group. We're going to see some real instances of depopulation happening within those countries for the first time in an industrial context. And I think the main reason why so many countries are trying to avoid that so studiously is because A, we don't really have any firm examples of that happening, like I said, and B, whatever limited examples we do have prior, it doesn't seem to bode very well. Especially when you're trying to be a capitalistic country that kind of bases its entire identity off of endless economic growth. It's not going to be very sustainable. But anyways, let's move on from this segment. All right, on to our next one. Frustration, anger, confusion. Trump administration leaves millions without clear path to paying off student loans. Court's decision to eliminate Save Plan and internal shuffling on who handles what when it comes to student loans presents new challenges for borrowers. Many Americans with student debt are again facing future upheaval after a federal appeals court recently ordered the end of a Biden-era student loan repayment program known as the Saving on a Value Education, or SAVE plan, a move that coincided with another grim revelation. New Education Department data shows that by the end of 2025, 7.7 million borrowers had defaulted on $181 billion in federal student loans. The SAVE plan, which was launched in 2023, is an income-driven repayment program created with the goal of cutting undergraduate loans in half, bringing some borrowers' monthly payments to $0 and offering early forgiveness for low-balance borrowers. Shortly after the program was announced, Republican attorneys general across the country sued to get it killed, arguing that it was an overstep of executive power and imposed heavy taxpayer costs. Oh, yeah, it's a fucking overstep of executive power when they're trying to make sure that students don't quite literally fucking drown in student loan debt. That's a fucking overreach in executive power. Meanwhile, while Donald Trump is literally fucking butt fucking the other two branches of American government, how many fucking Republicans right now, granted, the number's getting smaller and smaller as time goes on, but how many of them are still, how many of these attorneys general under the Biden administration do you think are actively, as we speak, gargling Trump's disgusting orange fucking nuts in their fucking, oh, you're so right now, Donald. Oh my God, you're so right. It's literally happening in real time, and they don't give a fuck about executive overreach. That's not what this is about. That's never been what this is about. What this is about is making sure that the corporations that profit from the mountains of money that they fucking collect from student debt don't get that undercut from them. Because heaven goddamn fucking forbid the average American actually have a chance to get a leg up in society. Heaven forbid the average American student who just spent 4, 6, 8, or 10 years of their fucking lives dedicated studiously to understanding a topic that was outside of their compulsory requirements in order to understand it under the American education system. Heaven fucking forbid that those people have a chance to make something of themselves without drowning in mountains of fucking student debt. Because fuck them, right? Every single time any kind of fucking law comes up that benefits the fucking little guy, first of all, it seems to typically be the fucking Republican Party that always raises a finger and goes, oh, but wait a second there. What about all these people that have nothing to do with what's going on right there, counselor? What about them? It always seems to be them. But there always seems to be some way of preventing the little guy from getting quashed. From the little guy not getting his piece of the pie. No matter how fucking tiny. No matter how infinitesimally fucking small that fucking piece might be. Compared to the totality of that fucking pie that's out there. Nope. You can't get it. Because fuck you, that's why. It's disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. Anyways. The ruling to eliminate SAVE serves as the final nail in the coffin for borrowers and advocacy groups who have been following the legal limbo for years. Nicholas Kent, the Undersecretary of Education, said in a statement earlier this month that the department would issue clear guidance on next steps for borrowers enrolled in the illegal SAVE plan, including details regarding how borrowers can move into a legal repayment plan in the coming weeks. And on Thursday, the Trump administration announced plans to shift that student loan portfolio to the Treasury Department as it continues its efforts to fully dismantle the Education Department. Right. Because any effort to dismantle the education department definitely isn't fucking signs that they're actively trying to fucking take a more direct role in how your children get educated. Wasn't that a big fucking alarm bell that a whole bunch of conservatives were ringing for the longest time? The idea that the government gonna get a direct fucking hand in how your children get taught things without much of any actual parental consent and things. But it's okay when this version of the government does it, right? You fucking numpties. You fucking blockheads. Oh my god. How much more obvious does it have to get? For you guys to start to realize, holy shit, we're like actively getting fucked over right now. In every single regard. By people that do not care for us. Anyways, and on Thursday, the Trump administration announced plans to shift the student loan portfolio to the Treasury Department. Right, I already covered that part. Linda McMahon, the education secretary, claims that the student aid will be better managed at the Treasury, and that students would receive the high-quality service that they've come to expect under the Trump administration. Yeah, the Trump administration that's directly fucking undercutting their goddamn student loans. Yeah, that's some high-quality fucking service right there. Imagine the fucking gall of not only fucking taking away what for many fucking people was probably their last chance at being able to scrape together some kind of fucking savings plan, but after doing that, looking at them in the face and saying, yeah, this is in keeping with the high quality service that you've come to expect with our administration. What a slap in the goddamn face, if ever there was one. For the millions affected by the court's decision to eliminate SAVE and the Trump administration's internal shuffling on who handles what when it comes to student loans, it's objectively daunting for new borrowers to figure out how to start paying off their loans or determine how to recover if they haven't been able to pay them. Experts like Rachel Gittleman, president of the American Federation of Government Employees Local 252, which represents more than 2,000 current and former education department workers, told the New York Times that the changes within the administration have sown chaos for states and grantees. This isn't efficiency, Gittleman told the paper. This isn't a fiddlesy. This isn't buggy. Secretary McMahon is creating confusion, eroding public trust, and harming students and families. Robert Farrington, founder of The College Investor, a website that provides news and analyses of student loan debt and personal finance, told The Guardian that he doesn't see what's left on the education department. What's left of the education department. Being active on social media, hiring influencers, getting the message to borrowers and families that might have been lost in the system. So really just these people are left in a giant fucking limbo. These people have no idea what they're actually going to do right now. They've been told that they're going to be given clear guidelines, and they've been given nothing of the sort. Like, these people are just fucked. Royally fucked. Unfortunately. Like, there's no mincing words when it comes to this, folks. Anyways, let's take a look at an individual example of somebody who has to deal with this bullshit and see what they have to say. So 2 jobs, $75,000 in student debt. How one Florida woman works to get by. Rachel Jordan is swimming in thousands of dollars of student loan debt. She's working 2 jobs in order to be debt-free, but worries that she's still financially behind. Some days for Rachel Jordan start at 5 a.m. and don't end until midnight, sometimes for multiple days in a row. I'm just exhausted, honestly, she said in an interview. Jordan, 43, is one of millions of Americans who work 2 jobs to get by as they try to pay down debts they incurred early in life. With about $75,000 in outstanding student loan debt, Jordan often works 70 hours a week to pay it down. Although she's not required to make payments since her loans are in forbearance, Jordan said that she usually aims to pay a minimum of $1,600 a month while working toward a larger monthly payment goal of $2,000. Living in Tampa, Florida, Jordan shares a 1-bedroom apartment with her French bulldog and generally tries to keep her living expenses low to focus on her loans. Her early job consists of servicing commercial real estate loans. Once that shift is done, she'll get a short break to take care of her dog before heading to Target, where she works in the kids' clothing section. It's a routine that she started last year when she realized that her debt was unsustainable. And in order to hold herself accountable to her goals, Jordan frequently posts videos to YouTube and TikTok documenting her debt-free journey. Quote, I felt like if I didn't do this now, it was only going to keep just being that thing that followed me through life, she said. During the pandemic, Jordan said that she had racked up about 6 figures of debt between her student loans, a car, and a credit card debt. Quote, I was spending some on my groceries, gas, things to get me by each week, but also was spending it on trips to Target for clothing or stupid stuff that I didn't need to buy, she said. I used credit cards and spending to give me the dopamine hit and help me through that time. And she isn't alone in her debt. Total U.S. household debt from housing costs, credit card loans, student loans, and more jumped up to $18.8 trillion at the end of last year. The rising cost of living has pushed many consumers to look into alternative payment sources like buy now, pay later to pay for everyday goods. By the way, that's also very true of just like general foodstuffs. I've been seeing a massive trend of people that have been saying like, yeah, I need to go to payday loan places just to get fucking money to be able to eat. Now, don't get me wrong. If you racked up some credit card debt doing some shit that you shouldn't have done, that sucks, and that really, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm not going to advocate for, that just being forgiven. Clearly. Hey, Trusty Apeco. Hope you're doing well. Always good to see you around here. Nice to see a familiar face. But yeah, I'm not going to advocate and say that that is a good idea. However, when you look at the actual proportion of student loan debt that people face in their life, credit card debt don't make any difference whatsoever. Plus, with credit card debt, even if you do make a bunch of stupid spending decisions, you're still going to be able to, at least on some level, get yourself out of that debt. You know how? By declaring bankruptcy. With student loans, you don't get that option. Even though bankruptcy completely nukes your credit score and makes you essentially start from scratch as far as finances are concerned, more than what you would literally assume it to be. Even though that's the case, with credit cards, you can at least have some sort of out from the fucking entrapment that they put you into. With student loans, you get saddled with that shit for fucking life. There's no way of getting out of those whatsoever, and they very intentionally made that the case. And by the way, if you want to give her shit for irresponsibly spending on credit cards, at the very least, she's trying to fucking work that off and trying to fucking be responsible with her fucking lifestyle at that point in order to try and make that back. But like I said, I somehow doubt that that's even the majority of the money that she's paying off on that shit anyway. Let's see. In an effort to get out of her own debt, Jordan began making payments and officially became free of credit card debt. Yeah, okay. So this just makes my point for me. She got out of credit card debt. She got out of credit card debt last year. Therefore, that somehow tells me that it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to get out of fucking credit card debt than it is to get out of this fucking student loan debt. And that's fucking impressive. Given the fact that credit card debt is designed much like student loan debt, specifically to be able to entrap you. And yet she still probably has that fucking student loan debt. Let's read. I became free of credit card debt last year. She said that she remains the case to this day. Quote, it's hard for me to think beyond too much because I just feel like if I can put too much pressure on myself for more than I already am, it's like I literally crumble, she said. Shaking off this aspect of her debt changed the way that Jordan viewed her finances. Now she said she treats her credit card like a debit card, paying it off every week and only spends what she budgets for, which is how you need to spend with a credit card. You know, the funny thing is that a credit card company, when you spend that way, when you treat it like a debit card, will refer to you as a quote-unquote deadbeat because they're not actually interested on you responsibly paying off your credit card every single week, shockingly. They're actually a little bit more interested in you racking up massive amounts of debt and owing them ludicrous amounts of money every single month. Anyways, let's see here. Shaking off the aspect of her debt changed the way that Jordan viewed her finances. Okay, I already read that part. Having never been taught about finances growing up, Jordan said, it's all been learning as I go. When I was first on TikTok is when I first in my almost 40 years of life heard about Roth IRA, she said. There's been a lot of learning from seeing what other people are doing, but also learning as I go to make my own mistakes and read up on my own. To keep herself going, Jordan set a short-term goal to pay off $25,000 of her student loan debt by October of this year. Looking toward the future, she had her eye on saving her first $100,000 between her retirement and a high-yield savings account. So far, Jordan has been able to put aside more than $13,000 combined in her savings and retirement. Good for you. Seriously. It's posting videos online. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Loans in limbo. Here we go. Jordan's student loan debt comes from 2 undergraduate accounting degrees. From the University of Phoenix and another from Western Carolina University. In 2022, Jordan decided to apply for student loan forgiveness for her first accounting degree. After applying, she said that she received notice acknowledging the receipt of her application, but hasn't heard anything since then. No news, no updates, literally nothing. She said her loans are in forbearance as she waits for a decision, but struggles with the unknown future status of her debt. It's been difficult because I don't know what's going to happen, she said. The times that I have reached out to the Department of Education, it's been like, oh, your application is still in process. And that seems to be the case, Jordan said, every time that she checks the status of her application through her account. It says that it's still under review. So, just for clarification, it's not even like per the typical fucking conservative stereotype of somebody like this girl. That she got her fucking degree and like, oh, she got underwater basket weaving degree or she got a gender studies degree or some bullshit like that. Like, no. That isn't even the case. She tried to fucking get degrees in accounting, which seems like a pretty fucking reasonable field to go into. And yet even then, even under those conditions, she's still fucking struggling and drowning in this fucking debt because people are struggling to find any goddamn work whatsoever in this economy. Isn't that strange? Isn't it strange how the people at the very top end of the economy say that things have never been better? Things have never been better, guys. Everything is great. Look at how high the Dow Jones is, guys. Look at how high the S&P 500 is. And meanwhile, people who work their fucking asses off, people who struggle and scrimp and save just to get the slightest leg up in life, need to have 2 fucking jobs and sacrifice 70 goddamn hours a week of their lives to the point where they barely have any fucking free time whatsoever just to be able to eke out an existence for themselves. This is the new middle class, guys. This is what it's gonna fucking take. In order to have any kind of fucking middle class whatsoever, you're basically just going to have to be the new Japanese salaryman, where you fucking work yourself 70, 80, 90, 100-hour fucking weeks every single goddamn week. And you know what the difference is? At least the Japanese fucking salaryman gets to go out and fucking get wasted with his fucking coworkers at the end of the goddamn day. At least there's some sort of sense of fucking camaraderie that exists within most fucking Japanese corporations. Where the fuck is that in America? Where in these corporations in the United States is this sense of fucking camaraderie? Oh yeah, I know that there's always the fucking rhetoric. Oh, we're a family, guys. We're a family. We really have this family mentality over here at Target. We really have this family mentality over at Walmart. But universally, when you actually try to peel that back and look at it at any kind of deeper level, there's no fucking family structure whatsoever. The employees don't give a flying fuck. And the turnover rate is as high as the goddamn fucking kite that's flying up in the air from the rich billionaire who's tied at the very fucking bottom of it, rather than the kite, rather than the key that fucking, who was it? Was it Jefferson that they said tried to fucking invent electricity with the fucking kite key? Isn't that the guy? I think it was Jefferson. Kind of like that. They fucking tied the entire fucking upper echelons of the American economy to just gambling everything away on fucking stupid fucking loans, gambling everything away on fucking foreign equity. That's probably gonna fucking come up bunk like it fucking did, I think 16 years ago it was. No, it wasn't 16, it was 18 years ago. Jesus. That was 18 years ago. 2008 was 18 years ago. I just now realized that. But yeah, they're just fucking tying it all up on this fucking kite. And surely enough, lightning is gonna fucking strike it and send it all to cinders. And they're just gonna take credit and go, oh my goodness. It was Benjamin, I see. Benjamin, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, I didn't take the opportunity to go and Google that. However, Google Foo being what it is, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an intellectual because I have the capability of firing something away into Google. Hey, how's it going, Lupin? Thank you very much for hate watching my content. Hope you're doing well. Do you mind making a more of a fool? Well, you know, you probably did make a fool of yourself on your show. I just haven't bothered to take a look. And people haven't bothered to send me any clips. So can you make an ass of yourself a little bit more on your show so that I can cover it and laugh at it a little bit more? That'd be appreciated. I was a little bit lacking in my silly segment at the very beginning of the show. I typically try to make that last at least 30 minutes. However, it only ended up going for 25, unfortunately. So a Lupin segment on top of everything else would kind of help pad things out just a little bit, you know? Have we mentioned the Hovind yet? No, I don't think that we have mentioned Hovind yet. I don't think that we have. I got out of the personal loan cycle just to rack up twice as much in credit card debt. You just can't win. I mean, you just got to be smart with your finances, dude. You really do. I'm definitely not going to act like I'm some sort of like financial guru, some like financial wizard or anything like that. But I'm 25 years old and I've never been in a penny of debt in my entire life. I've never had a single penny of debt. I've always paid everything off. I've had 2 credit cards that I have right now. And one of them I think's got a $10,000 limit and the other one I think's got 15. And yeah, I've never overspent on either one of those. They've all immediately been paid down the week of, because the last thing that you want to do is accrue any kind of serious interest with them. I've heard from a few people that you want to have like a little bit of interest with those credit card companies, but I just don't like that conceptually. I just don't like the idea of owing people money. It sucks. I don't like the idea of owing people money. No, I can't say that I'd like that less than I like begging people for money. You know, these people out there, like, they've got like Cash App links and stuff up in their corner and stuff, and they're like begging people for donations and stuff, even though they're making money. Well, some of them don't make their own money, unfortunately. Some people don't take the time. But those that do make the money, I have even less respect for them. Because, like, if you're making your own money, if you've got your own source of income, your own source of revenue, you shouldn't be actively asking for donations from other people. If other people donate to you, that's cool. That's all well and good. But, like, unless it's your livelihood and you're actively trying to, like, make it your career, I don't really see what the point of trying to ask people for donations on the internet is. And even then, if you're going to ask people for donations on the internet, you better fucking make sure that whatever you're doing is worth people's time enough to even have the wherewithal to be able to watch that content, right? Because if you're not getting anybody's attention, if nobody's watching you, nobody's paying attention to you at all, then what's the point in asking people for money? Because then you've debased yourself, right? You've gone to the level of being an e-beggar to not even receive any money for the process. I mean, like, how much is your dignity really worth at that point would really be my question. If you're willing to just e-beg and not even really get anything in return for it. That's really the saddest state of affairs. I think we've kind of done like a Dante's Inferno while talking about that. We've kind of like descended through the different layers of e-begging hell as time goes on. That is the real scare. You're doing well, paying off your credit cards immediate. Always pay the card off before interest occurs. Yeah, I just don't like any interest whatsoever. Even if the credit card company would prefer that I have interest every single month on those credit cards, it is not in fact the case. Loans in limbo. Let's see. No, I think I've already read everything for this particular article. I think we're good on that. Alrighty, so moving on to our next article that we have got here. Let's see. Nearly 80% of U.S. workers have been victims of career catfishing. Here's what it is and how to vet your next employer. Landing in a new job should feel like a step forward, but if your new role turns out to be very different from what you were promised, you may have been career catfished. The term describes when a company misrepresents the job, company culture, or compensation to lure in candidates. And it's happening a lot more often than you might think. Nearly 80% of U.S. workers report being victims of this devastating trend, according to a Monster poll. Many say their job responsibilities were different from what was expected, felt the company culture was misrepresented, or discovered that the compensation or benefits package was overstated. On the flip side, 13% of workers admit to catfishing employers by exaggerating their skills or background, while 67% say they believe their work with someone who misrepresented themselves during hiring. Yeah, like, I don't know if that's really all that fair, because they're going to clearly be less incentivized to talk about them catfishing their employer than their employer catfishing them. So I'd take the 13% with a little bit of a grain of salt there on the employer, on the employee's side of things. I'm sure that number is a little bit higher. I've never really seen the need to exaggerate skill set when applying for work, because, like, at that point, you're just having to lie. And if you're having to lie on your resume, you're just going to have to juggle a whole narrative while you're at work that isn't even true. And it's like, if I'm going to get paid for this thing, I may as well already have to deal with the tumult and turmoil of just working the job, right? The tumult and turmoil of working the job is enough. Having to lie about my skill set and try to maintain that narrative on top of the work is already like, no, thank you. That almost sounds like having to work extra for no real extra fucking compensation. Anyways, carrying on. As you navigate the job market, staying away of potential career catfishing situations may help you to avoid falling into a trap. So yeah, it basically goes on to talk about like how to avoid it, and that's all well and good, and I think that that's a good idea. But when 80% of US workers have reported being victims of being catfished for their careers, which by the way, I prefer the term of fraud personally. I prefer the term of being literally just like, yeah, being defrauded of what your work is actually going to be, what the salary is going to be, what it's going to entail. I'm a Yale graduate on my resume. No one check. Well, that's good, BS. That's good. I'm glad to hear that you're moving on up in the world, man. BS has got that ambition, that American ambition that drives them forward to success. No. It's really a question, though, when 80% of employers have to basically defraud the people that are trying to work for them as a company. At what level does it just become not a problem of the employer, not a problem of the employee, but just the fucking system itself? When 4/5 of all participants in the system need to misrepresent how the fucking work in that system is going to be done, then maybe the system itself is just a little fucking bunk, guys. Maybe the system itself needs to be reevaluated and not just endlessly be fucking lauded as this amazing, wonderful thing that we should just fucking uncritically accept as just the gospel truth of the reality of the world that we live in. I don't know. Just a hunch of mine. I'm also Aiden Linden on my resume. That is not a good... It's not going to be an advantageous career move. Screenshot? I mean, hey, go ahead, screenshot away. Lad studied for his PhD in economics at Oxford, but he did not complete it. Still way better of a educational background than Kent Hovind, if you ask me. There you go, Claude. I just brought up Hovind on the stream. I did it. Mandatory Kent Hovind mention achieved, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, yeah. The system we live in is broken, and it needs to be fixed. Moving on, just to one of the last things that we've got here today. I'm not going to be covering this for super long, but we've got Pentagon seeking $200 billion in additional funding to support Iran military operation. I remember, and Achilles, if you're still here, please sound off in the side chat if you still happen to be hanging out here in the stream, because you yourself brought this up earlier. That they were asking for $200 billion. And somebody brings up an adequate point of talking point that I've talked about a few times on this show. So they show this and say, for $200 billion, you could fund all of these rail projects, by the way. But instead, we choose to bomb children. So yeah, instead of actually improving American infrastructure, instead of actually benefiting the average American person in any feasible, tangible way. By the way, $200 billion more than enough to largely fucking solve the homeless crisis, at least in the immediate sense in the United States. More than enough to solve any sort of fucking issue of any Americans starving to death, going hungry, any one of those issues could be immediately, if not solved, alleviated with that amount of money. But instead, that $200 billion needs to go to bombing a whole bunch of children instead. Claude says, folding paper. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me highlight it. Folding paper airplanes and shooting rubber bands makes me a scientist, according to Hoven. That is true. That's true. Everybody, make sure to go check out Claude Ball's rubber band streams that he's going to be doing on his channel soon enough. No. Thank you very much, Claude, for hanging out here. Thank you, everybody that has been hanging out here. I've got two things at the end of this stream to kind of show off. I've got something that I just thought was really cool. And then I got something that's just straight up silly as our kind of palate cleanse, our refresher at the very end of the show. But yeah, our super serious, quote unquote, segment of the show is officially over at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everybody who has stuck around through it. Let's take a look at this art piece that I saw the other day. And after we watch the video, I'll do a little bit of commentary.
Slowest car crash in the world. It's an art piece where two cars crash into each other in slow motion. This process can last for months, as each car moves less than 1/10 of an inch per hour. It was created by the artist Jonathan Schipper. His goal was to show how tragic car accidents are, and how life can end in just 1 second, and so everyone could feel this inevitability. He slowed the crash down and spent millions to bring this project to life. This is the slowest car.
I just thought that was really interesting. You know, like when people talk about modern art, people talk about like things that are super abstract. And like there's like this motif almost on modern art as far as like it needs to be like avant-garde and difficult to understand. But I think that another possible interpretation of modern art is just putting a spin on art that you haven't necessarily seen before. And I have not seen this before. I've never seen that kind of take on things. And I think that that is a very interesting commentary on what is ultimately a very immediate, very tragic event that takes place very rapidly. I thought that was a really interesting piece of commentary as far as that's concerned. Anyways, let's take a look at our final segment here, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. I've only seen it just recently, and I got a good chuckle out of it when I saw it.
Despite their best efforts, the Chinese military, fighting with all their might, ultimately succumbed to the overwhelming power of the alien invaders. The aliens thought Earth's conquest would be swift and easy, but they were wrong. With the unexpected return of Hitler...
That is a pretty big plot twist. I'm not gonna lie, that is a pretty massive fucking plot twist that I was not expecting whatsoever. However, I would get hooked. If I watched that at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I turn on the TV, Ancient Aliens was on, or some fucking alien conspiracy show was on, and literally that exact sequence of events was playing, I'd be hooked. I would not be able to get back to sleep. Whatever hour-and-a-half long documentary of schizophrenic nonsense was about to take place from that point forward, I'm just there for it. I'm a part of it. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for being here. Claude Balls, Spooky Bedhair, B.S. Lewis, Trusty Ape Co., Loopin' Toopin', Takes a Poopin', I think I already said Trusty Ape Co., but I'll say you again just because you're such a freaking cool guy. Achilles 7. We've got Mr. Logo, Robin Webster, Big Bad Mama, Jimmy Tux TV, Odin. We've got Phantom X11, Reexamination, and I believe that is everybody who stopped by today for the Aiden Linden broadcast. If you have an excellent show, sir, thank you kindly, Trusty Abe Co. Always try to have an interesting show for everybody. And hopefully this was no exception. If you haven't happened to already like the stream, please do so. It would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, please know that I'm going to be checking out how things are outside today. And depending on the weather, I'm going to be doing another neighborhood sweep. I'm going to be checking things out, seeing how the trash situation is around my neighborhood now that snow isn't covering everything up. It's going to be a lot more visible than it was before. Aiden, come over to the open panel. Oh, is there an open panel? Where's the open panel at, Robin? What's going on? Who's having a open panel right now? Because I'll probably stop by, check that out if you've got an open panel. Is that happening on your channel, Robin? Hold on. I guess I'm gonna delay the stream really quick and Objective Ethics. I sent you a link. Oh, okay. Objective Ethics is having an open panel. That's actually neat. Okay. Yeah, because I had a chat with Objective Ethics recently that I thought was pretty neat. So, oh yeah, cool. I might go pop by and see how that is. Everybody go check that out. Robin, are you a mod right now in my chat? I don't think I have the ability. I mean, like, I could, but I'd have to exit out of this, and I don't know whether or not that's going to end my stream, because literally Restream is so unstable. Otherwise, hold on. Actually, I might be able to do it on my phone, now that I'm thinking about it. Making you a mod right now. Go to channel. Oh, just 1 second. I'm getting a call, but I am ending my show, so just 1 second, person giving me a call. Why can't I make you a mod? It gives me the ability to hide you. It gives me the ability to pin you a message, but it doesn't. Why not? Okay, you know what? I am now committed enough to this that I'm going to YouTube and making you a mod. I don't care if it crashes the stream at this point. I don't care. Robin is being made a mod right here, right now. Add as moderator. Standard moderator. Save. There we go. Robin, you are now a mod. Go ahead during the outro if you would like to post a link to the open panel that's going on right now over at Objective Ethics. Feel free to do so. And with that being said, I'm going to hit my outro. You guys have a good one.